Hello and welcome. Today we're going to unbox, take apart, and inspect a Ford AOD remanufactured pump that we received from Transtar. So I get these at my local hard parts supplier, and they order the preponderance of their parts from Transtar, including most of the remanufactured pumps. So I never ever recommend anyone take a remanufactured pump out of the box and simply bolt it onto or install it into the transmission without checking it. Alright, I can't tell you how many times I've seen remanufactured pumps over the years be anything but remanufactured. So first thing you actually want to do even before you open the box is just kind of shake it. You want to see if there's a lot of movement inside. Maybe the pump is not well packed. And that can kind of give you a little bit of foreshadowing, or a little bit of hint as to what you might find. But this pump appears to be well packed. Now, to my knowledge, all these pumps are the same from 1980 to 1993, and this is more or less how they come. So before you take it apart, the one bolt that's holding it together, you want to just do a cursory inspection. Now, this is the bag that you'll put the core in. There's a $20 core charge on this particular pump. To be honest with you, don't ever send them back. I just keep the pumps because I can have them remachined at a later date. I mean, as time marches on, pumps from AODs and C4s and other things start to become scarce. And so you want to make sure that you have plenty of cores around if you build these to any degree of frequency. All right, so first check your stator, check the structure. Every once in a while I'll see one come in with a big chunk missing out of it, and that's kind of goes back to the reason why I like to shake the box, and I'll do that as soon as I get it on the counter, and then I'll open the box. But I didn't do that with this one because I wanted to film a video. So check the splines, make sure they're in good shape. Okay, I see a new bushing was installed here in the rear, at least it looks like it. So that's good news. A lot of reman pumps, they don't install bushings. So this looks like a 1980 manufactured pump, so rough foundry or rough forging, and then EOAP. E is going to be the decade in Ford's legacy codification. So C equals 1960s, D equals 1970s, E equals 1980s, and F equals 1990s. Then they changed it sometime in either late 1999 or early 2000 to whatever standards they're using today. A is going to be the specific application, or at least this third character is going to be your specific application. So, I mean, everything from trucks to Mustangs to Thunderbirds or vans or whatever. And then P indicates that this was a product of Ford's automatic transmission design office. So let's go ahead and remove that one bolt. Let me go get my little stand, and then we can take this thing apart. So here the main thing we want to look for is true working surfaces, new gears, and a pump body that is in good shape. Alright, and before you even take it apart, you want to run your fingers all along the sealing surface on the inner diameter and outer diameter for the intermediate clutch apply piston. The last thing you need is to have a pump that's scored up in here that will maybe cut the lip seal and cause you to have no second gear. So 10 millimeter. Alright, let's take a gander at the working surface here on the stator. Let me get a rag. Alright, so already I'm seeing something that I don't like, and that is scoring here. I mean, you could see it and I could feel it. You see that scoring. You get it in an angle where the glare isn't so overpowering. I will compare it to the other stator that I have that came from this transmission originally, and frankly this stator is in better shape. And it's the reason why I acquired this pump is not because of the stator support assembly, it's the pump body I believe is a bit worn. So already we have, you know, strike one here against this pump. Alright, now let's take a look at the body. Zoom in a little bit. So note the orientation of the gears. You have flats facing forward. First thing you're going to want to eyeball is the condition of the gears, and from what I could see here, these gears are used. I mean, you can see clear signs of, well, usage, scoring or striations, and then some wear here on this particular flat. And then you see even more wear on the other flats, and again, this is worse than the gears that came out of the pump that was originally in this unit. So here are the original pump's gears. As you can see, the flats are in decent shape. All right. Let's take a look at the driven gear. The outer diameter looks okay. Let's take a look at the teeth, and we'll look at the drive gear's teeth in a second. Driven gear teeth look good. So the driven gear itself looks okay. And we can see wear on the drive gear teeth. Alright, let's take a look at the body. So this body was not remachined or reconditioned in any way from what I can tell. In fact, it looks identical to the body that I have sitting on the other bench that originally came out of this transmission. So this remanufactured pump would actually be a downgrade. Alright, it would make the transmission worse off if we elected to install it as is instead of checking it relative to the pump that originally came from this transmission. So this is why you check these things. Alright, now in the defense of whoever remanufactured this, whatever company, they did install a new bushing and a new seal. Now you'll notice the oil groove in the bushing does not go through and through. Okay, this is very important on all Ford pump assemblies, transmissions from this era, all the way up through the 2000s. You need to make sure that you orient the bushing and install in the correct way. If this oil groove was reversed, then oil would be channeled to the back of the front seal, rear seal. It would be channeled into the back of the front seal, potentially causing it to blow out in high RPM conditions. And I took apart a C6 pump years and years ago, Reman pump, and the bushing was installed backwards. So I mean, that was an easy fix. You know, just got a new seal from the supplier because I had to destroy the other one, taking it out, and then I just simply reoriented the bushing. But be that as it may, unfortunately this pump is not so easily fixed. Okay, if the bushing being backwards was all that was wrong with it, we'd be in good shape, relatively speaking. I mean, that's the state of affairs, unfortunately, when it comes to the aftermarket in the transmission building world. So that is why you always inspect your Reman pumps. Never just take it for granted that they are good to go out of the box and you can just install them and be done with it. Now, will this pump work? If you were to actually do that, would you have any problems? Well, you might have an issue here getting the converter on, and you might have a noisy pump if this wear is such that it's going to have a lot of play on the hub, And you know, that's kind of a positive feedback loop that ultimately becomes self-destructive, because the wear just gets worse and it gets noisier, it gets worse and worse, and eventually the drive gear can be destroyed. So alright, the other consideration of course is going to be your clearance between the gear faces and the pump body's deck surface, as well as the driven gear's space between it and the inner diameter of the pump pocket or the gear pocket, as well as the spacing that exists between the crescent and the outer diameter of the drive gear, as well as the inner diameter of the driven gear. I'm not even going to bother to check all that, to be honest. I mean, oh well, you know what, let me go get feeler gauges. I'll do it. Might as well. And when it comes to measuring the clearance between the gear pockets, between the gear faces and the deck, I have to use this little thing because I don't have any precision straight edge that will fit inside of this larger pocket. Alright, so when you're doing it like this, you really got to hold whatever it is you're using really good and hard against the pump body's deck surface, because otherwise this will want to collapse and touch the gear faces. So your first test is just to do this. Make sure that the gears can spin without interfering with whatever it is you're using as a straight edge. Okay, so it is passing this test. Alright, then you can start using feeler gauges until you cannot fit any more underneath of your, you know, your straight edge, whatever it is you're using. Alright, so we're fitting, this is a 1 thou feeler gauge. So you can see that. 1 thousandths. And it's fitting just like it should. So I'm going to jump to 2 thousandths and see if I can get 2 thousandths to fit. And I cannot. I mean, you can check in multiple spots. The best way to do this though is with a depth micrometer and a gauge bar. If your depth micrometer by itself isn't wide enough to span you know, the distance here, the gap here over the gear pocket. Okay, now it's 2 thousandths is fitting over here quite easily. And again, I have to do a better job of holding this little block so it doesn't just collapse onto the gears when I'm spinning it. Let me see if 3 thousandths will fit. So there's the 2 thousandths. And then here's 3 thousandths. It's fitting, but it's interfering. It's causing me to move this little metal block here. So the clearance here is 2 thousandths. Over here was like 1 thousandths. This is basically a glorified core. I mean, that's what we have. We have a glorified core. Put these gears on the other bench. So I know this was a very hasty check with the clearances, but it should give you an idea of the state of affairs here when it comes to this Reman pump. And those affairs are not any good. So the thing to do here is just to put this thing back on, put it back in the box, and take it back to the supplier for another one. And unfortunately, just, you know, nature of the beast, you're probably going to have to do this a couple of times, 2, 3, maybe 4 times, if you're going to stick with Reman pumps, until you find one that's actually acceptable. Or you can take it to your machinist if the machinist has a vertical mill and a program to machine out the pump body, because that's really the big challenge, right? The stator support's an easy fix. You just take it to the lathe, and I'm sure if there was nothing wrong with the body, I can just take this thing to my machinist and say, hey, this is what it's going to cost me to resurface the stator, and I'm sure I can get credit for that from the supplier. You know, one way or another, the pump gets remanufactured properly. But the body is going to be the complication, and for my machinist to do that, it's going to cost just as much, if not more, than simply returning the damn pump. So back in the box it goes, and notice it does not have a perimeter O-ring or sealing rings, which is, you know, par for the course. I mean, you know, if your pump comes with those things, then, you know, that's like extra credit almost. But you should not have to worry about the physical condition of the pump itself. It should be, well, remanufactured, meaning manufactured such that it is new again. And this is not new again. So there you have it. Always check and inspect your remanufactured pumps. And same holds true of valve bodies. Okay, you get a reman valve body in from, I would say, a supplier other than Sonics or Central Valve Bodies, somebody unknown, or maybe aftermarket Transtar, and you don't know who actually remanufactured the valve body, you really need to vacuum test it. That means disassembling the whole thing, because most of them will run it on the dyno, or they'll use, like, you know, different kinds of fluid to assemble it, and you got to clean all that stuff out, clean off all the valves, you know, put the castings in the jet wash, or, you know, just use a pressure washer to clean them off, and then once they're dry, you reassemble everything dry. Alright, you don't use any kind of WD-40 or transmission fluid. You just put the valves in dry, and then you vac test it, and then from there you see what kind of you know, state it's in from a sealing integrity perspective, and then you know what you need to do next. If the next step is to simply lubricate the bores and bolt it on, or take it back to the supplier, or send it back to whomever you got it from if it was an online purchase. So same with pumps. Alright guys, that's a video. Thanks so much for watching. As always, greatly appreciate it. This thing will go back to the supplier, and hopefully they'll have one that's actually decent that I can use in this build.